Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. University Hospital Waterford will have 150 free beds by the middle of this week. There are now 22 cluster cases of the coronavirus in nursing homes nationwide. And counting in the Sinead election begins today, while in sport, Ireland's tests against Australia this summer are set to be postponed. University Hospital Waterford will have up to 150 free and additional beds by the middle of this week. The hospital is increasing its capacity for COVID-19 patients. 2 wards in the Dunmore wing have been designated for coronavirus patients. Waterford TD David Cullinan's been speaking with hospital management, and he outlines how UHW is creating capacity.
Cancer patients are also being dealt with differently. The day ward has been completely moved over to Whitfield Clinic. There's plans to move over the inpatient ward as well. So that will free up about 50 beds that will be then be able to use to treat suspected COVID patients over the next while. Specialties like orthopaedics and other specialties are being scaled back. That will free up capacity in some medical wards as well. I think there is a tremendous amount of work being done by hospital management to free up as much capacity as possible.
He says the number of ICU beds will also be increased.
Well, there is only 6 ICU beds at the hospital at the moment. There is plans to increase that to 35 to ensure that we have 35 ICU beds if this virus scales up in terms of the number of patients that present for critical care. So that tells me that the hospital is taking this very seriously. Everybody's putting their shoulder to the wheel. Capacity is being scaled up in critical care and in beds, and that's how it should be. And all we can do now is wish the management and the staff the very best in the time ahead.
There are now 22 cluster cases of the coronavirus in nursing homes nationwide. The Health Minister is meeting with Nursing Homes Ireland this afternoon to discuss the number of cases among the elderly, as Stephanie Rowan reports.
There are now 2,615 cases of the coronavirus here, with 20% of the cases affecting the over 65s. The most recent figures show 22 clusters of the infection are in nursing homes. 20 are in the east of the country and 2 in the northeast. Age Action says the group nature of nursing homes, like shared eating areas, means those living there are at a big risk. Nursing Homes Ireland, meanwhile, says they need more funding and better personal protective equipment. CEO Ty Daly says staffing is also a major concern.
We need to ensure that the staff in the sector are supported, obviously, and that there's appropriate testing and excessive and very quick turnaround time in terms of the results of those tests, so the staff who don't have COVID can get back to work as quickly as possible.
Outside of nursing homes, those over the age of 70 are being reminded to cocoon and not leave their homes for their own protection. Officials say the coronavirus hits any age, but doctors say you're more likely to get sick from it if you're over the age of 70.
People over 70 are being asked to stay indoors under new restrictions set out to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Cocooning is the measure to protect those who are most at risk if they contract the virus. Josh Crosby has more.
Among the list of new measures announced by Taoiseach Leo Varadkar on Friday is cocooning. Essentially, all those who are over 70 years of age or those who are extremely medically vulnerable should not leave their homes for the next 2 weeks. This demographic has been asked to cocoon as they are at a very high risk of severe illness if they contract COVID-19. CEO of Age Action, Paddy Conlon, says demand for their services is on the rise.
We're calling over 11,000 people over these days, and about 30% of them are asking for us to call back and check in with them. So there is a degree of anxiety out there in terms of will they be able to get their shopping and how long will this last. And I think that's probably the most difficult part. How long is this going to last?
Since the new restrictions have been put in place, GAA clubs across the country and retailers have come together under a new initiative to support the elderly. Local task forces are working to get food and essential supplies to those who need them most. The advice for elderly is to stay indoors, while people are being asked to only visit those who are cocooning if they are providing essential care.
A Waterford GP, meanwhile, says people aged 70 and over must adhere to the government's advice. Dr Mark Rowe of Waterford Health Park told Damien Tiernan on Daysha today that there are ways to keep active.
The government, and these are the experts we have to listen to, have said that people aged over 70, according to your date of birth, should really be cocooning themselves and not going out, which is, I know, a major inconvenience for people, but people just need to be more imaginative about how you get some exercise. If you have a back garden, get out into your back garden, get some vitamin D and sunlight and fresh air as much as you can. And there's lots of really imaginative ways that you can exercise: jumping jacks, walking up and down your stairs.
A dedicated community support helpline established by Waterford City and County Council to assist at-risk members of the public in accessing support and advice went live this morning. The COVID-19 Community Response Forum can be contacted on 0761 10 20 20. That's 0761 10 20 20. Waterford Council CEO Michael Walsh says the helpline is focused primarily on ensuring that vulnerable members of the community or those living alone can access deliveries of groceries, medicine and fuels.
We'll be working with all our partners, everybody from the GAA to the IFA, hopefully to a loan, to the public participation network. And really the job is to coordinate it, to try and identify, I suppose, people that need help out there and to make it easy for them to identify, look, and to ask the question, look, we need a bit of help here. And then for us, collectively, with both volunteers and our own staff, to give whatever help is needed.
The lines are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. More than 283,000 people have received social welfare payments after losing their jobs because of the coronavirus. The Department of Social Protection has had 323,000 individual applications from people who've been made unemployed over the past 2 weeks. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
These figures give us the first real sense of the sheer scale of job losses because of the coronavirus. In just 2 weeks, the number of people getting a job seeker-style payment from the government has more than doubled. There's been around 323,000 individual applications from people who've lost their jobs, with 283,000 payouts from the government so far. Assistant Secretary at the Department of the Taoiseach, Liz Canavan, says more still have been ruled ineligible.
15,000 applications were deemed ineligible for a variety of reasons. For example, because individuals were not fully employed, aged under 18 years or were not previously in employment.
On top of the COVID-19 pandemic payment, 25,000 payments have been made to employers under the wage subsidy scheme. The figures show that in the region of 300,000 people have lost their jobs so far because of the coronavirus crisis. The Department of Social Protection says the number of applicants represents a 19-month wage claim load in just 14 days.
Gardaí and Waterford are again reminding people not to drive to a destination to get exercise. Over the weekend, several areas were closed to visitors, including the Prom in Tramore, Man Falls, Kilcooney Woods, Ardmore, Colligan Woods and Clonay Beach. Gardaí yesterday turned people away who had travelled to Tramore for recreational exercise. Inspector Gavin Hagerty has this advice for people going out to exercise.
But if you're going out as a family unit, you have to adhere to social distancing rules. So it's not about you going out with your next door neighbour or your best friend who lives around the road. It's your family unit and your family unit only. You should get your exercise by walking out your front door and starting at that point. You shouldn't get into your car to go get exercise.
An Aer Lingus flight which was going to China to pick up personal protective equipment for healthcare workers has been forced into an emergency landing. The Beijing-bound flight took off from Dublin Airport at 10 to 11 this morning, but was forced to turn back shortly afterwards. Witnesses saw flames coming from the plane's engine following an apparent bird strike. Noel McConnell was at Dublin Airport's viewing area when it happened and says emergency services are now at the scene.
There was a large Aer Lingus flight taken off. As the aeroplane reached near its takeoff point, it caught from the left-hand engine, which looked like a lot of flame. It done it again several times as the aircraft climbed, took off through the clouds. It has actually landed now, as I said, and all the emergency vehicles are following it back into the area where it parks.
Counting in the Seanad election begins today. 2 Waterford councillors are running. Fine Gael's John Cummins is on the Labour panel, while independent Joe Conway is on the cultural and educational panel. Postal voting in the election closed at 11 for seats on the vocational panels and closes tomorrow at 11 for seats on the university panels. The count will take place at Dublin Castle, where Oireachtas staff say appropriate measures will be put in place to protect staff from the spread of COVID-19.
WLR Sport.
With Virgin Media Waterford. Virgin Mobile on a 30-day contract. Nothing hidden.
Starting with rugby, where Ireland's tests against Australia this summer are set to be postponed due to the coronavirus. Rugby Australia Chief Executive Raylan Castle says home tests against Ireland and Fiji in July were highly unlikely to go ahead. He added that November fixtures in Europe could also be sacrificed to complete Super Rugby and the Rugby Championship. Ireland were due to play a 2-test series in July in Brisbane and Sydney, while the Wallabies were also due to travel to Ireland later in the year at the end of their season. In tennis, the Vice President of the German Tennis Federation Federation claims this summer's Wimbledon will be cancelled following a board meeting on Wednesday. The All England clubs is yet to confirm what will happen with the championships, but has already said it won't be played behind closed doors. Dick Hordoff, who is also involved with the men's and women's tours, says it's unthinkable to host a competition which attracts hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world. And a motor racing, an advisor to the Red Bull F1 team, says he wanted a camp organised so the team's drivers could be deliberately infected with coronavirus at the same time. Helmut Marko told Austrian TV the proposal was for his drivers, who he called strong young men in good health, to develop an immunity to the virus before the season restarts. The rest of the team's management were against the idea, which was abandoned. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Waterford.